Hi. It has been forever, and there's really good reason for that. I also didn't know if I wanted to do this as a live or if I wanted to get in there on Reels, but it's live because I can't figure out Reels. So it's nice to be here. I miss talking to camera like this, which means I miss engaging with people like this. But there's been a lot happening, and I don't understand much of any of it, so I've kept my mouth shut. I am here this morning because I'd like to express myself. I think for those of you who pay any kind of attention to any of the channels that I have now or have had in the past, I do spend time talking about creativity, and I get caught with this a lot, stopping myself when I have an idea, however ridiculous or small the idea seems to be. I stop myself a lot. And one of the things that I have shared with my friends over the years, that I've shared with clients over the years, is that we get stuck when we don't do the creative thing, when we don't follow through on the inspiration. So I'm back in this practice again of following through on the inspiration. And I encourage anyone who's tuning in right now to do the same, whatever you're inspired to do. And there's so many little things that we're inspired to do. It could be something that's classically artistic or creative, so painting, writing, making video, things like this. But I'm also talking about the inspirations that we get that have us going to a different grocery store or going down a different aisle in the store, walking a different way. If you have a routine of walking a pet or being out with your kids on a walk, just anything that is inspiring us to look at something new, to look at something old and familiar in a new way. These are all inspirations. It's all creative promptings and nudgings, and too many of us are still in the habit of ignoring them, of overriding them, and basically energetically what that does is we build a dam in ourselves of all this creative intuition and inspiration and food that we're doing nothing with. And then we wonder why we are feeling depressed, or why we're feeling bored or uninspired by life. It's because that inspiration is actually piling up within us, and because we're not doing anything with it, nothing new can come in, although for some of us it just keeps piling up. But we just get stuck, just like the lymphatic system gets stuck when we don't move our bodies, and you guys know what I'm talking about. So I'm here because I've got a backlog. I've got a backlog of ideas, and I haven't understood what to do with them, and I've been doing nothing with them, mostly. So, specifically, I want to talk about something that is controversial. I'm not going to be able to get it all out today, and I might just take it in tiny little bites and see how the conversation goes. So, I have spent a lot of time in my life being in love with flora and fauna. I'm going to call it flora and fauna. We might call it, like in contemporary culture today, there's a lot of talk around plant medicine and fungi allies, things like this, microdosing, etc. There are so many conversations to have around this subject matter. I'm going to start with something that makes me really happy right now. This smells so good. A little story about this. So this is cacao. I have not worked with this grower at all. I chose this after reading through a lot of websites and a lot of Etsy shops and a lot of comments But the one that I wanted, I couldn't afford the shipping. The shipping was more than the cost of the cacao, and I just don't have that budget right now. So I want to start by saying that I think that this has quieted down some, but over the past few years, there's been so much chatter, I'm going to use the word chatter, in the interwebs about all the experiences people are having. And I'm going to put this down and talk about it in a bit. So if you guys have been with me for a while, you know we have to pause. We have to pause in these conversations. I am not here to entertain you. I'm here to have conversation with you. So if you need like a super fast conversation, that's not going to happen here. So I'm going to take my time. I'm going to pause. If you're into meditation, you can do your breathing, your visualization in my pauses, and we'll all be cool. Okay. So, oftentimes what happens when I want to say something is the mirror of that or other options to the thing that I think I believe, they come up and present themselves all simultaneously. And so then I am having a conversation about whether or not I really believe what it is I'm about to say. So that's what's happening right now. There is a part of me that believes that our experiences with the natural world, and I also put myself, we as humans are the natural world. This idea that we go to the woods, we go to the beach, the ocean, we go to the mountains, we go to the prairies. We go to these places and we are part of these places. We are part of the natural world. And I would love to see us spending more time and attention bringing humans back into nature rather than saying spending time in nature. We are nature. So there's that. Within that, I feel that our experiences with our world, including the plants that we go to for understanding, for insight, for teaching, for opening, I feel like those experiences are, I'm going to use the words best kept to ourselves. Okay. So that's a part of me. That's something that when I watch, and again, this is moved out of my field of awareness over the last, I'd say, 6 to 9 months. But for a while that was super intense. You know, people would be connecting over their experiences with a variety of plant teachers, I'll say. Okay, so there's a part of me that believes that they're like ceremony, or like the rest of the ceremony. They're meant for us. It's not something to be shared out there on these platforms in detail the way that it can be. And what I just said about people connecting in their experiences has also been incredibly impactful in a positive way for a lot of people. So it's a both and then there's multiple other communities of conversation that I can see in my peripheral around this conversation that I'm starting here. So both and sidestepping from the plant conversation that I'm having, learning how to live more in the both and is an amazing skill that we would all benefit from developing now and for the future. Both and. Polarities are a lot of fun to play in, and polarities are necessary at times, and it is also true that being able to hold opposing views simultaneously, I believe, is one of the ways that we're going to be able to move through the middle. Again, multiple other pieces of information coming in at the same time. But being able to hold the both and is what allows us, is one of the ways that allows us to come up with, to discover, to drop into new options, new responses, new ways of being. So, okay, so to recap, for a while there, we had a whole bunch of people, businesses, all sorts of opportunities to go into some kind of entheogenic experience. And people were sharing these things all over the place online. And the part of me that feels like that is meant to be a private inward experience was a little bit appalled. And the part of me that understands that a lot of connection was happening for people who felt very isolated, a lot of conversation around advocating for access for everyone continues to happen, and I am all in support of that. So it feels like a complicated space, which it is, I think, because of the way we humans like to complicate things. Not necessarily because working with the plants and being in those experiences, I want to say, is complicated. Not because that is complicated, mostly because we complicate it with our humanness. I'm telling you, it's hard for me to have a conversation because it is never a straight line. There's just too much information, too many possible routes. So, a couple of things. If you are someone who has a more private relationship with these things, you are not wrong for that. And if you are someone who gets really excited and wants to share with the whole world, you are not wrong for that. I would like to see more reverence, more appreciation in the space, but I also get it. So, what I would like to talk about specifically with cacao, again, there's a list of things that I'd like to talk about, but one of the things on my mind right now is this is a master teacher. That's what one of my teachers calls it, a master teacher. And that's what a lot of these plant experiences are. They're master teachers. And they have personalities. And some of us are matched to the personalities of certain plants, and we're not matched to others. And we should be very mindful of that. I was going to say we should ask permission. My recommendation is to be in conversation with the teacher before we go into relationship with it, before we consume it, ingest it, take it inward. But as soon as we start asking questions, the relationship begins. There's so much. Okay, so I'm going to start there. It is entirely possible to receive teachings from these plants and the fungi and the animals. Flora and fauna, that's what I'm going to call it from now on, flora and fauna. It is entirely possible to receive the teachings, receive the healing, receive the upgrades, all of the things that we're wanting or that we're moving towards that maybe we don't know we want. It's entirely possible to receive all of those without even taking the flora and fauna into our body. Once we make contact in our questioning, once we have a curiosity and we express that, we've started the relationship. We've started it. Now, there's always ways to take it deeper, but I am here to tell you that just sitting with some aspect of maybe I'll just start calling it F&F, the flora and fauna, because entheogens, plant medicines, fungi they're not plants, so I'm trying to figure out how to encapsulate all of it, how to bring it all into the same basket, and have the conversation without having to explain myself every single time. All the entheogens, all the master teachers. Okay. We can sit in prayer and meditation asking for an audience with that master teacher without having to go to the desert or go to the jungle. And how I know this is that I have had this experience. And I don't feel like I was seeking it out, but I certainly wouldn't have thought I was seeking it out from that perspective. But on this side of it, I can see how I made the invitation. And then the teacher came to me. No contact with the physical matter of the teacher. And there's no question. There's no question in me that it was that teacher. So again, so much more that can be said about that experience and how to cultivate that experience. I'm sharing that right now because there are so many reasons why we might want to work with a particular master teacher and either literally, truly not have access to it or feel as though we don't have access to it. There are so many reasons why. There may be hesitations around becoming physically involved with a master teacher. So I want to offer that to those of you who feel like you're capable of exploring master teachers like cacao and all of the others without actually having to take it into the body or have it physically in our presence. And that's through prayer and meditation and establishing an altar if you choose to. We can carry ourselves as the altar and do all the prayer and the meditation and the song, prayer and song, same things to me. So it doesn't have to be a physical altar. We are the altar. But again, for those who want the altar space, I'm just giving you a visual, like an idea physically of what surface you can interact with as you are having your conversation with the teacher. Okay, so there's that. Next to that is this idea that we need to have bigger and more profound experiences. We need to go for like the heavy hitters. And you guys know who the heavy hitters in the master teacher plant and fungi world are. So yeah, there's this attraction to, oh my God, I want that experience and that sounds amazing, and I think that's the only way I can get through X, Y, and Z. Like that, like I need that thing, that entheogen, that teacher to help me with this question in my life. And that's what brings me back to cacao. So I have had a number of experiences with cacao over the years. And just to go back before I knew the word cacao, I was a chocolate lover, like freaking love chocolate. Appreciate maybe I'm an appreciator, because I can think of other people in my life who are actually like fiends for it and that kind of thing. But definitely a fan of chocolate. And I think the first time that cacao raw came into my life was probably at a trance dance experience, like however many decades ago that was. And I had this experience of cacao and some other raw superfoods that I could just feel. It was like a light beam through my body. So I fell in love with the very physical experience that I had in my body. And from there, I learned to make some things, like little desserts and like those little ninja balls and just things that I could have like the powdered cacao in. And then I went to a few ceremonies, cacao ceremonies, and they were nice experiences. I won't go into those. My point is, I've had an ongoing relationship with chocolate first and then cacao. And I think that I put it into the nice, sweet, like, yeah, that was a nice experience, but it's not like the heavy-hitting experience. Like, it's not got the psychoactive properties, it's not taking me anywhere, things like this. So, first of all, I want to encourage everyone, if you're working with the master teachers, again, understand every teacher has a personality, its own personality. And we are going to be receptive to certain personalities at different times in our life. So that's something to keep in mind. What works for you, what appeals to you at one age may not work for you, may not appeal for you at another age, may not be suitable for the circumstances in your life. Things like this. So being in conversation with the teacher, I would say even before we're going to take this into our body. That's an important, responsible, self-aware, and humble perspective to take when we're working with, or when we want to work with any of these teachers. The thing about cacao, a lot of people will say that working with cacao it's very sweet. It's a very sweet medicine, people will say. I have been around people who, want to have meditations after, get very quiet after. And again, so another thing is your experience, my experience, there's going to be variations in the experience. So I don't spend much time laying down definites of what's going to happen when someone sits down with one of these teachers and begins their own relationship with it. So someone might feel very relaxed, very quiet, very soothed with cacao. Someone else might feel very activated and energized with cacao. And I think that is something that's often overlooked with this particular teacher. It is also a highly energizing, highly clarifying teacher that happens to be more soft around the edges than some of the others who could potentially teach us the same kind of lessons by throwing us flat on our ass. I'm thinking of an experience that I had where I wasn't on my back, I was laying face down in the dirt, and there are different ways that the information gets through to us. And this one tends to have a reputation for being very kind in its delivery method. That kindness, this is my point, this is why I wanted to come on today, that kindness should not be mistaken for not being worth our time and our attention. So we don't have to go out for the heavy hitters. We don't have to be thrown around in we don't have to be thrown around in our lessons. It is possible to go deep in our lives. It's possible to go deep in our lives without seeking out without seeking out experiences that knock us around, that are intensely disruptive. And we can seek those out. If that is if that is the only way that you feel you can be moved, I would ask you to just question yourself a little bit. But that might be the true calling that you're having to move towards. I just want to acknowledge that these expansion experiences that many of us are volunteering for these days, that many of us are finding ourselves in these days, they are already requiring a lot of surrender and I'm going to use the phrase willful disruption from us. There are tools and support systems all around us that do not require us to increase or intensify our suffering and struggling as we're figuring out how to embody new ways, embody new aspects of ourselves, embody new skill sets. I am thinking of flower essences right now. One of the, I'm going to use the phrase, most refined correction or expansion internally without like aggressive without aggression. I'll just say without aggression. So that's flower essences. So many options in the flower essence world. We just have to be willing to do our part and quiet ourselves, listen, pay attention to what's showing up. So again, there's a lot in here. I love the awakening that's happening just across, I'm going to stay with my country, across my country, in terms of spiritual acceptance, like acceptance that many of us also have a spiritual component, and in fact that spiritual component might actually be the leader, and this body might be the vessel to help us get to where we're going, or to be where we are, depending upon what you feel your mission is at this time and place. There are there are so many ways to access what these master teachers can help us access. So again, it can be prayer, sitting with an image, rather than having to go to some place and pay the money to participate. Or for some people who are curious about the experience but have no available courage around actually, again, taking something into the body, that's not necessary. It is entirely possible to sit with the spirit of a thing, to sit with the spirit of a place, to sit with the spirit of a being. And it could be an immediate communion, it can be an ongoing communion. I think what would be necessary in any of these cases is our willingness to quiet ourselves and pay attention. So, I'm also going to add this in. So there's this conversation about cultural appropriation. And in some circles, there's this idea that some things only belong to certain people. And I think that is another place where a lot more conversation is appropriate. I also know too many people who do not come from certain traditions, and as part of their struggle, in addition to not coming from certain traditions, don't look anything like the tradition that they have been trained in or apprenticed in. And there's more than one way to be trained and apprenticed in something. And what I would say, because this is another place where people get stuck, is that it doesn't matter if the tradition is recognized by the outside world as your tradition, or whether it is a tradition that you recognize internally as resonant for you and worth pursuing. In either capacity, we owe the traditions, we owe the teachers our respect. So I would like to see us be less offended by something that doesn't look like it belongs, and more engaged with developing respect for the thing that has called us to it. And I'm going to stop it there. Thank you.